Andy here, and I'm excited to bring you this morning's devotion, which is really just kind of my own personal reaction and some of the things that God was doing in my heart and my mind on Sunday when I listened to this Sunday sermon. You know, we were talking about the character of Daniel. That's where we're going to land in this new sermon series called First Things. And really what Pastor Danny laid out was that this is an encouragement for us to rethink what is sitting on the throne of your life. What is the first priority? What are we building and organizing our entire life and way of life around? I don't know about you, but that question is not as simple and straightforward as maybe it sounds for me. You see, there are some days where I wake up and I'm confident. I am building my life on the foundation of Jesus. But then if I'm honest, there's some days I wake up and frankly, I just sometimes forget. Sometimes I get distracted, and sometimes there's other things that come up. And, you know, in this sermon, there was kind of some language introduced to us. It came from the C.S. Lewis quote that if we put first things first, we get the second things. That second things come when we put God first. And I was thinking about, what are those second things? For me, some of those second things that I'm tempted to build my entire life around are things like my marriage. It's the idea that I want to be the best husband possible, and so I throw myself into that. And slowly I forget that all the love I have to give is never going to be enough. That without putting God first, I'm going to run out of love. That when it gets hard or challenging, that I'm not going to have enough left in the tank. The same could be said about being a dad, about parenting. That, you know what, I love my son Colton. He's adorable, he's fun, but sometimes he's just downright exhausting. And you know what, I can love him for a period of time, but if I forget that God is the first thing, that as a follower of Jesus, we are called to build our whole life on the foundation that God has laid for us in Jesus. If we forget that and we try to do it by our own power, we might last a few days, or maybe if you're really good, you might last a week or a month, but it's not going to last. And so I was thinking about this temptation. This temptation is subtle, because for many of us, it's not a temptation to build our life on a vice or something deeply sinful. It's just a very subtle shift of priorities where we're convinced that what we should put forth first is anything except God. Maybe for you, it's like I said, maybe it's your marriage, maybe it's parenting, maybe it's a job, maybe it's school or some type of performance or sports or anything that is not God. The temptation to put it first is a temptation that never ends well. But I was encouraged this Sunday because, you know, something that stuck with me was this idea that Daniel of the Old Testament, a Jewish boy that was plucked from his homeland, he was indoctrinated into a pagan world, the Babylonian Empire. He was forced to have his name changed. He was forced to read new history and learn about art and culture that was not his own. And yet he stood righteous in the midst of it. And Pastor Danny pointed out that as a faithful Jew in that time, every single day, Daniel started his day off by praying this prayer. We call it the Shema. It comes from the book of Deuteronomy. Many of you have heard it. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength." And I was thinking about those things, that to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, with all of our mind, with all of our soul, with all of our strength, is really language that says love God with all that you are, and everything else will spring out of that. I want to encourage you, because the Bible lays out that we've been given some really tangible tools that we get because of what Jesus has done. That we can put God first, and we do it in many ways. We can do it by praying. That just the mere fact that we would pray to God is saying, God, I'm a mere mortal. I turn to you. I want to have this conversation with you. I want to lay my struggles and my desires before you. And in doing so, I'm acknowledging that you are great. You are worthy. You could actually do what I'm praying for. And when we do that, we put God first. Another way we put God first is we read his word. When we read the Bible, we're given example after example of how God intervenes. He brings provision, he brings miracles, and he's always doing it to people who are reminded and remembering that God is to remain first. The last tool that I've been really leaning on in the last couple months is this idea of Christian friendship. It's the fact that God never called us to walk all alone, that God called us into community. We call it church. Or we get to have friends that say, hey, I'm just checking in on you. Are you putting God first today? So I want to encourage you, as you continue to walk out your week, I want to encourage you to continue to pursue God as the first thing. Maybe you might wake up in the morning and you might say, you know what, I'm going to set aside some time. I'm going to set the alarm 10 minutes early so I can set some time aside to pray. Maybe I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to reconnect with a Christian friend of mine, or I'm going to start a Bible study. Maybe joining our Wednesday midweek that starts tonight. Maybe that would be a good step forward. But I want to encourage you to continue to pursue building your entire life on the foundation that is true and good. That is God. And when we do that, all the blessings and the second things flow from the abundance that we get in Jesus.